Welcome to Confident Connections, the podcast that helps you show up with confidence and connect with people on a deeper level. I'm Lisa Liu, and here we break down the small signals that create big impact. Body language, presence, and the simple habits that help you communicate with ease, increase your influence, and magnify your impact. You'll learn how to make strong first impressions, build trust faster, and feel more confident in any conversation or setting. If you're ready to improve your communication skills and create connections that move your life and your leadership forward, you are in the right place. I've got a fantastic resource for you that is completely free and is really going to help you, especially if you've ever felt awkward with meeting someone new, or maybe you just want to know how to make the person across from you feel seen, valued, and understood, especially if you've never met them before. Or maybe you just want to get out of the people pile. You want to be memorable instead of just saying, hey, what do you do for a living? Which is what everybody says, totally forgettable. Maybe you want some new ways to engage. This is my How Not to Be Awkward conversation starters, and it is going to span professional and networking events that you may go to, connecting with empathy, and even transitioning into deeper talk. There's also a great little pocket connection card that you can just snapshot to keep on your phone and use right before you head in to a situation where you just want to have some great conversation starters, literally in the palm of your hand and in your pocket. If this sounds interesting to you, I want you to go to lisaluimpact.com/connection. You'll also find this down below in the show notes, completely free to you, lisaluimpact.com/connection. Hey friends, welcome to the Confident Connections podcast. So here's an announcement. If you follow me on social media, you saw this announcement across Instagram, Facebook, and or LinkedIn, wherever you may follow me from. But you know what? You're my podcast family, and I want to share it with you here as well. And it is that I am writing a book. I started a couple months ago, and I hinted around a little bit on social. I did a little bit of market research through social media, but I did the majority of my market research just grassroots, sending messages to people that I know, contacts, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, some of them that I don't even know very well, just to gather data. So let me tell you a little bit about what my book is going to be about and why I'm even telling you, because you may be thinking, doesn't everybody write a book? I mean, at least in my circles, like the people that I hang out with in the leadership and communication space, everybody has a book. It's something that's actually been on my heart for maybe the past 15 years, but I was very obstinate about it. I just didn't want to write a book. I always heard it's like giving birth to a wheelchair. Like it just sounded awful to me. But I'm glad I didn't write it years ago because I know that my messaging has, there's more of a focus now. And so here's what my book is going to be about. Let me start by giving you the why behind the book and how it just kind of the idea got birthed. So I don't know, who here may know my story, but part of my story is that as I was growing up, my mom and I moved a lot. She and my father divorced when I was about 2 years old. By the time I was 4, I had lived in 4 states. We were not military ever throughout this whole story, okay? But me and my mom decided to come to Louisiana when I was 4 years old because her brother was stationed here at Barksdale Air Force Base. So we were actually in Bossier City. And we just continued to move a lot. You know what? My mom was very, very hippie, very always looking for the next best situation. She did the very best she could. She wanted to make sure I was in a good school and a good neighborhood, but we moved a lot. And so that was throughout my upbringing. And I remember being 24 years old and just counting all the homes I had lived in up until that point, and it was 55 different homes. So needless to say, I lived out of boxes. I was always, in new neighborhoods, new schools, different friend groups. And it made it really, really hard to make friends and to make connections and to, understand who I was and what you learn those communication skills oftentimes early on in your life. And that's something that I really struggled with, which I know is part of the reason I'm so passionate about connection and communication today. But I was always the awkward girl, in the mix of all those new places. Now, by the time I got to be a junior in high school, I stayed in the same high school the whole time, which was amazing. But up until then, it was a lot of different schools, a lot of different friend groups. And so, throughout all of this, by the time I was in my 20s, I had several different diagnoses. I don't know the right word for that. And my energy levels literally were at an all-time low. All of that will be in the book. I've shared it in the past, so I won't share it a bunch here. But eventually, I began to have this word that became an identifier that people would say about me, which it's still to this day, it's probably one of my favorite compliments. But people would say, you have so much energy, or she's the girl with all the energy. And what's funny is that has only increased the older I've gotten. The reason I'm telling you this, first of all, so you understand the backstory to the book, but also because I really got curious earlier this year, and I thought, okay, how do you teach energy? Like you know my past. I was in health and fitness for decades. And so a lot of times, you think of energy and you think of kinetic energy, like somebody who moves all the time or bounces off the wall. That's not necessarily transferable. To some degree, it could be, like if somebody's inflammation went away, right, and they feel better in their body. By the way, there is a body stewardship portion of the book where we do talk about that, because your vessel is what carries your impact. That will also always be an important topic to me. But what does energy look like to some people? I had something unique happen in Korea. So, I was in Korea recently, and the day that I did they hired me, a nonprofit hired me to come speak for an hour and a half in Korea. It was a keynote they wanted me to do. But because the topic was pretty robust, I told them, look, if you want, you're flying me across the world, you're paying me to do this, double my time, I won't charge you anymore, let me do a workshop. I feel like that's going to bring more value, okay? So it was phenomenal, by the way. Absolutely amazing opportunity. I learned so much. I need to come back and debrief that with you. It was just awesome. But my husband traveled with me. He and I landed in Korea on Friday afternoon. Sunday morning was the workshop. Now, my part was only 3 hours, but I wanted to be in that room with everybody the whole day through the other speaker and different things, because I wanted to just get to know them and add value to them in any way that I could. Let me just tell you, the day was awesome. I had tons of energy, but when it was over, I was bone weary tired. Like, not sleepy, but like, oh my gosh, if I have to people for another moment, I'm going to be struggling. Well, my husband's CTO and his wife live in Korea, which is one of the reasons that he came with me. And they were taking us out to eat that night. And even on the way to go meet them, I was nodding off in the back seat. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this tonight. I've got to go to sleep right now. So you've ever been that tired? That was me. We get to dinner, lovely, lovely couple. They were amazing. And all night, I just kept thinking to myself, I hate that I'm meeting them for the first time when I feel like this, look like this, sound like this. Like I felt like I looked so drained, because I was. But no fewer than 3 times did Kate, Trevor's wife, say to me, I cannot get over all of your energy. My jaw dropped like 5 inches. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Are you looking at me because I don't have energy? There was no part of me that looked or felt energetic. At least that it didn't feel that way, right? So we became Instagram friends, and a few days later I messaged her and I said, Kate, I'm writing a book, and this is actually flows right into what I'm talking about. Can you tell me what it was that you saw that you would have put that word anywhere near my name in a sentence that night? And she knew I was jet lagged. She knew I was tired. And she said, let me think about it. And she wrote me back, and her exact quoting will be in the book, but it was something about the two main things that stood out to me. She said it was the passion about what you spoke about, and it was your health. And I was like, oh my gosh, fascinating. Because as I've been doing my market research, what I have found is that there are 5 categories that the way people identify energy in other people fall into. So I'm going to share that with you here. I'm going to keep this brief because then I have an ask of you, okay? This is a partnership in a way, okay? So the 5 categories are self-aware energy, perceived energy, active energy, relational energy, and confident energy. As I gathered my data, those were the things that those categories kept coming up. You know, self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing your blind spots, knowing your weaknesses. Perceived energy, how do you show up in a room? How do other people perceive your presence when you walk in? Active energy, our body stewardship. How are we stewarding the vessel that carries our impact? Relational energy, how are we making other people feel when they are in our presence? And then confident energy. We can act a certain way and look a certain way, but what carries it long term is that confidence. And there's a magnetism there for people. So that's what my research landed me. By the way, the acronym for that is SPARC, SPARC. So this is such a fun journey, and I wanted you to take you along with me. My goal is actually to have it in hand by the end of the year. That may be pie in the sky because I don't want to rush it. But I just have a couple chapters to go because it really is flowing, especially having gained, market research from others. This isn't just coming out of my head. And by the way, this is not how to be like me. That is not what this book is about. There's a lot of story in there. There's certainly things that I have experienced, but this really is how to become a magnetic person. And so if energetic leadership is something that's important to you and you want that magnetism, you want that presence in people's lives that draw them to you, here's the good news. It can be learned. It can be built. It is not something you have to be born with, and you do not even have to be an outgoing person to get it. So I'm excited about this. I would love to know your thoughts, but here's my ask. Do you want to help me with this? Because I have more market research that I'm doing. So what I'll be doing is probably in my next podcast, I'll be dropping in a Google form that's really just a poll. I've done a lot of my open-ended market research at this point, and now I'm ready for some polling so that I can have some statistics. And so if you would be willing to partner with me, you are helping me to build and create something that I really believe will not only benefit people personally, but it's for organizational energy as well. This is for, teams and businesses and leaders of all kinds. I believe that these 5 categories, if these are things that we can move the ball forward in our lives, that we can work on. I know as I'm writing it, I'm like, whoa, there's some categories here I really need to focus on. So it's exciting to me because I love growth. I love knowing that we never stop growing as long as we live. We always have lots to do. We're never going to get bored or run out of things to do because we're never going to reach our full growth here on earth, right? So I love that part of it. And so I'll be a fellow sojourner with you on the quest to being that energetic leader to the best of my ability. But if you would be open to helping me with some polling, I would be so grateful. So I'm putting that in your head this week so that next week, so this is my own personal call to action, I will have that Google form ready to go out to you. And the more people that I can get to fill out that form, so please feel free to send it to friends, even if they're not a podcast listener, which by the way, why not, right? But even if they're not a podcast listener, send it to your kids and your husband and your parents. I would absolutely love to have a lot of feedback here, okay? That's it for today. Just wanted to give you that exciting news. I'm really, really excited about it. My prayer is that it adds value and impact to people who are ready to move from where they are to where they want to be. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening, friend. I can't wait to see you next week. God bless.